Yo, what is up guys? It is Bumfris, back with episode 49 of our Reddit series. This one's going to be some more NuclearRevenge featuring ProRevenge, and I know you're going to love this one. A quick thank you for all the love. We are so close to 200,000 subscribers, and if we can hit that mark today, I'll do an extra long episode of Entitled Parents. So don't forget to smash the subscribe button, then sit back, relax, and laugh at a bit of revenge. My parents are divorced, and my father knocked up and married an immigrant from Mexico. From the day I met her, she's been nothing but cruel to me and spoiled the crap out of my half-sister. This all started when my half-sister threw my iPad and laptop that my mother brought me out of the second story of our home. They both broke, and my father refused to buy me a new one, and my mum was beyond pissed, and my stepmom laughed. My mother ended up replacing them, but my stepmother ended up taking them from me to give to my sister when I went back over there. This was my revenge. I'm severely allergic to walnuts to the point of anaphylactic shock. I learned that Kind bars have enough walnuts to make me throw up and not to have my throat close up. I got up really early, ate some eggs, dairy and fish for breakfast, and I collected my electronics and called my mum to pick me up. I gathered her coach purses and all of her shoes and ate a Kind bar. It took less than 5 minutes before I threw up all over her stuff, and it stunk so badly. The smell radiated throughout the house, waking everyone up. My stepmother started swearing and calling me some horrible names. My father started swearing because he brought all the purses and shoes even though he works on cars. My mother honked the horn and I left before they could discipline me. Later, my dad called my mum swearing, telling her what I did. My mum didn't care though because they didn't pay for the laptop and iPad that my little sister broke, and then she hung up. I should also add that they did try to clean it up by taking it to a few dry cleaners, but there was still a stain and could slightly smell the puke. Is it just me, or does anyone else think this dad is just a horrible person? Just because you got a divorce and that kid was from your ex-wife, it doesn't mean you have to treat them like crap and completely neglect them as a person. I think the entire family deserves something like this to happen, and quite frankly, I think this kid deserves some F's in the chat as well for having a dad like this. So a little background to start. I was active duty for 6 years in the Air Force, stationed at a base in the Northeast. Throughout my first 3 years, I had a supervisor who was awesome. We actually became really good friends and still are to this day. Unfortunately, the way it goes in the military, he got moved to a new base, meaning I needed a new supervisor. We'll call him TSD, had arrived to my unit about a year before my supervisor had to leave. Right off the bat, I could tell TSD and I were not going to click. He was the type that was loud and obnoxious to get attention and to be funny. He just wasn't a person that I wanted to be around, so I made a point to remove myself whenever he came into the room. It was obvious, but whatever. I didn't care. So when my supervisor left, of course, what do you know? TSD became my new one. I had no say in it unfortunately, but I still didn't need to like him. Just had to go over my work performance and stuff like that with him every so often, but besides that, I stayed away. But by no means were me and this guy friends. Clearly, he didn't take the hint. Okay, so it's been a few months since he's been my supervisor. I keep to my routine of avoiding him and whatnot, not caring if it was obvious or not. One day, before our morning meeting, which is about 7:30 every morning just to go over workload, roll call, etc., I'm sitting there waiting for everyone to show up. I'm sitting at a table by myself on my phone where he comes over and sits next to me. Obviously, I'm automatically annoyed, so I put my phone down on the table, and a moment later, my girlfriend texts me, lighting up my screen, which is a background of me and her from my birthday where we were all dressed up. She's wearing a t-shirt revealing some cleavage, but not like inappropriate. He takes it upon himself to pick up my phone and ask who that is. I tell him it's my girlfriend, and he proceeds to rub the screen where her tits are and says, "These are pretty nice. You got any more pictures of these?" I'm baffled. I couldn't believe what he just said to me. This creep, who I never had a meaningful personal conversation with, just asked to see nudes of my girlfriend. I grab my phone back and say, "Are you effing serious?" And he gets all red. I get up and move and try and calm down because at that point, I wanted to knock him out. For reference, he's a mid to late 30s guy with a teenage daughter, and I was 22 at the time. Just creepy. I was sick of this dude and thought this was a perfect opportunity to get rid of him as my supervisor to avoid any contact whatsoever. Little did I know, I was going to get that wish plus some. I take it up the chain to my captain and she's clearly upset. She tells me this was his last straw. Apparently, TSD was already talked to about his inappropriate behavior. But above all else, months prior to asking to see nudes from my girlfriend, we had a work barbecue. This was on base during duty hours, with everyone and their families there. TSD decides to get hammered and comes over to our table of me and my work buddies and whips his dick out. He tells the joke, "Can someone tell me what the time is?" as his dick is on his wrist. It was funny when Nick Swadson told the joke, but not this creep. Everyone was like, WTF, there were people's kids right behind him when he did it. Hopefully, you're starting to see what kind of guy he is. Regrettably, no one ever reported him for it because he was a tech sergeant and we didn't want to get in trouble for reporting him. So when my captain said that it was his last straw, she took it up her chain, while launching an entire investigation. Myself and my co-workers had to go in and give statements to the investigators about everything we had on this dude. They wanted to know everything, so everyone basically told their own stories of how creepy and inappropriate TSD was. They of course found out about the barbecue, which was just a mess. Fast forward a few months and the court-martial comes. Me and a few others, including my old supervisor and other friends, had to fly back from Korea and Arizona, and we had to testify at the court-martial. It was a crazy experience, but this dude was a piece of crap and I didn't feel bad. TSD ended up getting kicked out of the Air Force and lost pretty much everything. Sometimes I think I went too far. He only asked to see my girlfriend's nudes and pretended to rub them. Pervert. I only wanted to get rid of him as my supervisor, but I did one better. Got him away from me completely. Bye bye, a-hole. Well, if this doesn't fit nuclear revenge, I really don't know what does. Not only did this guy get what he wanted and get rid of him as his manager, but he also managed to get rid of him completely from the Air Force. Seems a little bit over the top, but I guess that's the point, right? So for Christmas one year, my parents got us season passes for Six Flags. We used those passes often throughout the year as a family and had an amazing time. It was one of these days that it happened. We waited in line for one of the more popular lines, which was at the 45-minute wait point. This was relatively good for this ride as you can wait for up to an hour and a half at its busiest points. We got into line, excited to share this ride with our dad as it's one of the few he can ride as he has a bad back injury that makes just walking around extremely painful at times. As we were in line, laughing and making jokes while watching this little TV that they have at various points in the line, when a group of people rudely cuts us and stood in front of us. Our dad has a habit of not letting things slide, so we all braced for cover waiting for our dad to go off on these people for cutting us when to our surprise, he didn't say anything. With confused looks, we just turned to our dad wondering why he hadn't told them off and to get behind us. He just looked at us with a look in his eyes saying, "Wait for it." We shrugged it off and continued to wait. We didn't make it too far into the line at this point, so it was still about a 45-minute wait. As we get closer and closer to the front of the line, we got more and more excited wanting to get on the ride with our dad and have a great time. The way the line is set up, before you get onto the loading station, there is a two-way staircase that has the regular line on one side and the fast pass line on the other. And at the top of the stairs, there are workers making sure the people in the fast pass line are supposed to be there. This is where my dad strikes. After waiting the 45 minutes in line behind the cutters, we stood at the top of the stairs and my dad signaled for a worker's attention. Once he received it, he pointed to the group that had cut us and calmly stated that they'd cut in at the beginning of the line. The worker then politely told the group that they would need to leave the line and go back to the beginning. They were pissed, but followed the instructions and left the line. The worker thanked my father for informing them, and suddenly pieces pushed into place in our mind. Our dad had purposely waited until the very last minute to make them have to wait another 45 minutes, plus more time as the line was longer now and it was later in the day and more people had arrived. I couldn't help but laugh as I watched them walk out of the line and back towards the beginning and just hope that they learnt their lesson not to cut after that. Well, I mean, you can't say they didn't deserve it. It seems like they were pretty happy to leave. They clearly knew they did the wrong thing, so good on this person for sticking to his guns and getting rid of them. This definitely sits more on the side of pro-revenge, but a good revenge story nonetheless. So I lived in this trailer park growing up for about 16 years. It used to be pretty nice until it kept changing owners. Eventually, the newest owner hired a security guy. Dude was a straight up effing creep. He'd write down everyone's plate numbers, knock on your door and barge in without permission to look inside, just to see if he could get a fine for something inside, look inside people's windows, etc. He even thought he was a cop and had lights put on his security car, which the local PD made him remove. We called the police and they said they couldn't do anything about it or whatever because our trailers were on their property. One of my family members was and still is a mechanic, so we acquired some of the oil he drained out of a customer's car, dumped it onto the guy's lawn which killed it, then doused his patio equipment with flammable substances and lit it on fire. Guess what? He never so much as looked at the general direction of anyone's windows ever again. Yo, if this isn't straight up arson, I don't know what is. I mean, fair enough you want to get some kind of revenge on this dude for being a creep and staring into your windows and that, but Jesus, this is just way too far. I really don't even know. Nuclear Revenge just has some of the most messed up stuff I've ever seen. Not my story, but a co-worker's from my old job. Co-worker will be referred to as A. A is from a Spanish-speaking country and his family moved to Bronx, NYC when he was about 11 years old. Starts middle school shortly after and doesn't speak a word of English. School is obviously hard, but to make things worse, one group of boys has taken it upon themselves to beat A up after school. This happened A's first 3 days of school until finally he can't take it no more. After getting beaten up again, he goes home and looks in his father's tool shed for something to defend himself with. The only things there are some pliers and a hammer, so he takes the hammer. Next day, the bullies come back to beat A. When the first one closes in, he pulls out the hammer and cracks him on the head, putting a small hole in his skull. The other kids and A ran off. A doesn't know what happened to the kid who got hit, but assumes he's fine now as no one hunted him down. No one bullied him after that, and most people just stayed away from him in general till he graduated and went to high school. Honestly, after that last post as well, this subreddit just goes from bad to worse. The thing that gets me is these posts have 98% of upvotes, and I would love to think that people aren't condoning this type of behavior, but still, it's just so messed up in itself. I shouldn't have to say this, but please don't hit anyone in the head with a hammer thinking that it's good revenge, cause you'll probably go to jail. Alright everyone, that is that for today's episode of Nuclear Revenge. I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy, don't forget to leave a like on the video, and if you haven't already, I do have a series for entitled parents as well, so make sure to check that out. But that will just about wrap things up for today's video. I just want to remind you all I do have a Twitter and Instagram, so go drop a follow on those. But otherwise, that is that. I just want to say again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I'll see you all tomorrow for some entitled parents. Bye.